On everyone, my name is Matt Jarbo, and this is $3 Theater. And with Aquaman popping off here in just a couple weeks, we're getting a lot more information about what might have been in regards to Zack Snyder's original vision for Justice League and how it would have tied into Aquaman. This is the final Zack Snyder influenced film, even though James Wan pretty much made it his own thing, and it looks amazing. Like, I cannot wait to see this movie. The early reviews are very, very, very positive, and a lot of people out there, I think, are very happy that Zack Snyder had no real involvement in it, even though fans like me, who are still full-on hashtag release a Snyder Cut, want to see what would have happened with that. But we get a little bit of insight with this interview with Momoa, where he reveals Aquaman's Justice League ending that was ultimately cut from the Snyder Cut. And that, of course, is, it's not the end of the world, so to speak, right? It's not the end of anything. It really just gives us a bit more information in regards to what could have been and what ultimately should have been, at least for finishing up Zack Snyder's trilogy in this particular world. And again, the debate over whether or not Snyder did good things or bad things is not what I'm looking to have here. He clearly did good things. That's an objective. That's a fact at this point. Don't even bring up the theatrical BVS. That mess was Warner Brothers. Justice League being the way it was Warner Brothers, and they just wanted to move on past it. But here's what Momoa himself had to say. He says, in Zack's cut, we had it where I was with Volko and Mera, and I say I have to go home, and they say there's this force coming that I need to help. And I'm like, I'm going home to see my dad. I get in the back of a pickup truck and pound a bottle of something, and off he goes, the Wanderer. So that was kind of the end of Justice League, where I was going, cut to me coming home and run into a submarine. Now, what I take that to be ultimately is the submarine bit that we've seen in the trailers, I think was already very, very, very planned from the get-go. So the submarine bit clearly is going to be in the beginning of the film. I have a feeling that's going to be the opening set piece, the opening introduction or reintroduction, if you will, to Arthur Curry and to Aquaman, and to show off Jason Momoa's skills. They've shown it in a couple different teasers, a couple different trailers to give you an idea of what to expect from that scene. But I think it's just going to be a lot of fun to show off and introduce a lot of the non-CG spectacle action that we're going to come to experience for like the rest of the movie, because the movie plays like an old 1920s serial from what it looks like in the trailers. Very, very Indiana Jones inspired at some point in time from what I've read from some of the reviews. And ultimately, I think it's going to be pretty great. Now, it goes on to say here that Momoa provided this information after being asked by Chris Van Vliet when exactly Aquaman takes place after Justice League, noting that in his mind, the former happens right after the latter. Momoa also mentioned in Aquaman, Arthur Curry has been gone for so long that he wants to come back to his roots, hence why he goes to visit his dad, Thomas Curry, played by Tamara Morrison. However, the theatrical cut of Justice League ultimately tossed out this look into his personal life and instead just show him embracing his Atlantean half more than before. And that makes sense because this was clearly an ensemble movie. They only had 2 hours, like a hard 2-hour limit. They couldn't give us the exposition. They couldn't give us the backstory that we wanted, the backstory that I believe would have really, really, really fleshed out the characters, making it a much more prominent comic book going experience over this time. And it's one that ultimately I feel was kind of left to the wayside by the studio execs and Warners. Again, everything about these, all the flaws, predominantly, in my opinion, fall on the shoulder of Marvel. Right, it really does fall on the shoulder to Marvel, to Warner Brothers executives at this point. And it's not that Zack Snyder doesn't have his own problems. The dude clearly works in the long form. So locking him into like 2 hours or 2.5 hours arguably never really works. And from a story perspective, they tried this with Sucker Punch. The director's cut's far better. You had 300. It still worked in its own right, but still you could see there's stuff they cut out. Batman v Superman, locked into 2.5 hours, cut out a half hour. The movie was a lot better as a result with that extra time. That's how Snyder works. That's how he operates. And it's unfortunate that we won't ever get to see it come to fruition with that. Yes, I'm still hashtag release a Snyder Cut. I'm never not going to be hashtag release a Snyder Cut. I'm always going to be for it because in my mind, I just want to see the damn work print. I want to see the building blocks of what could have been in order to give me closure. And that might be selfish, and I'll admit that. I have no problem with that, but it annoys the ever-living piss out of me that Warner's got cold feet. And they tried so desperately to be Marvel. They tried so hard to copy Kevin Feige that they lost out on what made the Marvel movies great, and how the DC films would have eventually made their way to the same route that Marvel was going, right? They would have eventually gotten there, but they had to kind of come out of the dark into the light, so to speak. And I think that's the vision that Snyder was taking us on, but it's one that we'll never get to see, and that's unfortunate. But this, this little scene would have just set up where he goes in the beginning of the movie. It just would have tied in. It would have kept that continuity. It would have kept the flowing of events. It would have kept the character in people's minds. It would have made them really question where things were going to go, and then move them towards going to see the movie when it finally comes out a year after Justice League. Now, we don't know. I mean, Aquaman's looking for a pretty big opening, a lot bigger than Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is unfortunate. That Spider-Man's getting capped right now, but that's not even, that's a discussion for another time. Anyway, what do you guys think about this one? Do you think that this scene should have been cut? Did you even care at this point about anything Justice League related? These are things I'm curious to know. Let me know down in the comments, or you can call into our voicemail line at 818-350-3281. That's 818-350-3281. And I know that I've been slacking on getting those things responded to. That will happen this week. I will talk to you all later. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.